It's called the Northwest Related Arts Festival, a collection of visual artwork from 27 schools in the area. Today, students were putting the finishing touches to more than 300 pieces of their work, including pottery, painting, modelling, ceramics and woodwork. The official opening is tonight at the Armidale Town Hall, and for those who miss it, the display can be seen at Hannah's Arcade from tomorrow.
The only thing that is neglected is the Year 12 children's major artworks, because they're still in schools being assessed for marking this year. But otherwise we've got an excellent array of skills right through the school program.
Part 2 of the festival begins tomorrow night, with the Education Department holding a gala performing arts concert at Lazenby Hall. It will feature singing, bands, rock music, drama and dance from regional schools. The show starts at 7:30.
It's called the Mobile Auto Accessory Power Pack, or MAX for short. It contains a heavy-duty truck battery and either a 600 or 1200 watt power inverter. By plugging it into a normal power point, the pack can be recharged overnight. The idea came to Max, the inventor, 2 years ago, basically out of necessity.
When we have a power failure at the farm, we can't run the tanks, the pumps for showering or any water or anything, or the clothes washer or anything. It's quite awful.
Max doesn't take credit for originality. The various parts, he says, have been around for a while. It's just the first time someone has put it all into one convenient package. It's capable of energising a computer, benchtop saw or even a washing machine. And the internal battery can even start your car. Plus, Max says, it's totally safe.
If you connect it up incorrectly, like with the wrong polarity, you'll get a warning and it automatically turns itself off. So you can't do any damage to the unit.
The idea has been patented. The pack is currently being tested by the Electricity Commission. One has already been bought by a mine operator in Lightning Ridge, and Max has received inquiries from interstate, New Zealand and the United States. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
The semi-trailer was northbound on the New England Highway when it was forced onto the wrong side of the road about 8 kilometres south of Glen Innes around 6:30 this morning. It's alleged the truck swerved to miss oncoming cars on both the left and right-hand sides of the road. The truck driver swerved, hit a guardrail and then slid down an embankment. The load of tile and carbon adhesive lay strewn around the scene. The driver escaped uninjured, but there were fears the adhesives would make their way into a nearby creek which is connected to the water supply. The council was called in to clean up the spill. 6 truckloads of soil were brought in to cover the mess, while dozers worked on removing as much of it as possible. Tonight, the scene is said to be safe.
We feel that we've done well here this morning. We have contained this problem, so we don't anticipate any further problems. We will be taking water samples next week. The government analysts will be looking for these materials in the water here just to ensure that we've got it all.
Half the small businesses that start have failed within 12 months.
Most small businesses don't plan to fail, they fail to plan.
Planning is what it's all about at Cessnock's Business Enterprise Centre. Officially open today, it offers people like Pat Robinson suggestions about how to set up her own photographic business.
It's really great. It's like having your own personal backup.
The free advisory service has a range of suggestions about how to keep the cash flowing, including credit control, marketing and industrial relations.
We've got 3 functions. One of them is to help people that are opening up new businesses. The other one is to support those that are already in business that we can give some help to. And I guess thirdly, we're to maybe try to advise people who we don't think are going to succeed to stay out of it.
With unemployment in the area at 16%, it's hoped the centre will help increase the number of jobs available. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
It was a must-win game for both teams, Perth hoping to leap up the ladder and the Falcons trying to hang on to playoff aspirations. What the fans witnessed was unbelievable. 94 all at the end of ordinary time, and then no less than 3 periods of extra time to find a victor.
We had our chances and we didn't quite make it happen, but certainly from the fans' point of view, it was a great spectacle.
Perth trailed for most of the match before getting their noses in front late in the fourth quarter. The Falcons had every chance to wrap up the game, but failed to capitalise on a 16-point lead at half-time.
When we did have the lead also, we have to look at why we didn't play well with the 16-point lead and let them come back, peg back 8 points straight in the start of the third quarter and 10 points at the start of the fourth quarter. So there's some deficiencies in our game, but we're going to look at that, and we're going to, I think, win ball games here that maybe we wouldn't have won in the past.
But the Falcons can take a lot of heart from the battle against the defending Mitsubishi Challenge champions.
It was a gutsy performance by the team. Unfortunately, that doesn't calculate into wins, and in this business, that's all that we're really interested in, wins. It might get the crowd back and might keep people on our side, but eventually you've got to start producing some of these good efforts into wins. If we can do that, then we'll look a lot better.
Many councils have implemented good ideas about how to save money. However, until now, those ideas haven't been shared. Should change all that. Produced by accounting firm Ernst & Young, it documents the creative thinking that has made 40 councils more profitable.
The benefits are that councils are able to come up with some money-saving ideas, simple methods and procedures that will actually save them money and in turn save the ratepayer money.
The range of ideas is extensive. Ratepayers have been offered prizes such as weekends away, lottery tickets and discounts as incentives to pay their bills on time. The government authorities that have done this report that between 97% and 99% of bills are paid by their due dates.
The councils are very parochial and don't always share ideas, and I think the process of coming up with a money-saving idea survey was to try and get these ideas together and pool them so that we could share these with local government generally throughout New South Wales.
Next year, Ernst & Young plans to compile a national study of how councils can save money. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Golden sun, me a name I call myself, far a long, long way to run. So a needle pulling thread, learn to follow star.
And I think this will be a real asset for the hunter because it will target children who may not have had the chance otherwise to develop their skills, and that's why I think it's just wonderful to have it here.
It's a high-powered competition for low-powered cars. School students are putting their eagerness to learn, a borrowed 70cc mini-bike motor and a few bicycle wheels behind the idea of travelling hundreds of kilometres on just a squirt of motion lotion. The mileage marathon will be held at the Amaroo Park Raceway at the end of the month, but it's no kids' stuff. Japanese car manufacturers field crack teams against Australia's best. There's room for a few adjustments on Newcastle's Waratah Technology High School's entry.
The gaskets around the bottom of the float chamber are all leaking.
Meanwhile, in the workshop of the nearby Glendale High, students are busy preparing 3 entries in the single seat and commuter categories. It'll be their 3rd attempt at the marathon.
Yeah, we've made some alterations to the cars, and we were hoping that they'll improve, and next weekend we'll try them out. We'll give them a run around the school to see if everything that we've put into it will work properly.
Any particular secrets up your sleeve at this stage?
Oh, nothing we want to divulge.
The cars have to make a number of laps of a short circuit at Amaroo Park within a given time and at an average minimum speed of 25 kilometres an hour. Kelly, the only girl in the pro, are you looking forward to driving?
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be good. Been down the last 2 years, so 3rd time lucky, hopefully.
The rock stands on the southern side of the city, in the middle of the path of the planned highway bypass. The RTA had planned to move it more than a week ago, but postponed that because of bad weather. Now, however, some of the local Aboriginal community are opposing the plan to relocate the stone, saying it's of historical value to the Gumbaynggirri tribe.
I don't reckon the rock should be removed from out there. I reckon it stands for the Armidale community. It's the first time that something like this, as far as I know, and I think a lot of Aboriginal people in Armidale knows, that something was found like this. So it's a rock. It's got very smooth sort of carving in it, and I think it's used for grinding and also sharpening rocks too. You know.
Around the site, other rocks believed to be a skinning tool and a spearhead were also found. The tribal elders have said the rock should stay in place, and that's what members of the Armidale Local Lands Council intend to happen.
We will be making a stand that the rock stays where it is, and the road will go around that rock site.
Six Hornets from the RAAF's 3 Squadron arrived at Butterworth Air Base near Penang on Tuesday afternoon, completing the 7,500 kilometre trip in just over 9 hours. The pilots endured cramped conditions and cockpit fatigue as they flew from Williamtown RAAF Base across Australia and Indonesia to the Malay Peninsula. The pilots conducted 5 mid-air refuelling operations with 3 707 tankers working in relays to keep the Hornets airborne. It's the longest non-stop flight many of the pilots have ever made, and the first time Hornets have made a direct trip from Williamtown to Butterworth. A RAAF spokesperson said the non-stop flight is a significant demonstration of Australia's strategic position in the region, and the Hornets will remain in Butterworth for a series of exercises with the Malaysian Air Force before making a less gruelling return trip to Australia in 6 weeks' time. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
The neighbourhood was hit by a number of power surges at about 10:30 last night as the blaze took hold. A resident, Ross Craig, grabbed his video camera to record the scene as flames swept through the building.
There was just one big mass of flames going up at the rear end of the Masonic building.
Do you think there was much the fire brigades could do?
No.
Locals saw one of the biggest buildings in Stockton reduced to rubble.
Some people were saying that they heard explosions, but this was only the combustion going off inside.
Then it didn't take it long before it got into the lodge room, which went up in flames, reached the sky nearly.
Built in 1923, the building had been used as a cinema and Masonic lodge and had weathered both the 1974 Cygna Gale and the 1989 earthquake. The hall was insured, but almost a century of Masonic memorabilia has been lost.
It is history that'll be lost forever. All our records and one thing and another like this is all destroyed. They'll never be able to them.
Just before 8 this morning, 5 people escaped a blazing house at Beresfield. All were taken to Newcastle hospitals, one child suffering second-degree burns to the face and hands. It's thought children playing in the lounge room had knocked a sofa cushion onto a gas heater. The recently renovated house was extensively damaged.
The early callers indicated that there were people in the house, and the controllers advised them to get everyone out and stay out of the house, and I think the people were very lucky to get out with their lives.
And this afternoon, brigades were called out again to a house fire at Raymond Terrace. No one was injured, but a fibro and iron cottage in Charles Street was gutted. Andrew Lobb reporting for NBN News.
Wingham has come alive. There's a buzz in the air generated by 13 enthusiastic sportsmen. Tiger fever has gripped the town, with the Wingham Rugby League team undergoing final preparations for the Clash of the Year Grand Final against the Port Macquarie Sharks this weekend. Everywhere you look, there's a black and gold tiger in some shape or form. In the shops, on the shops and on the streets. The people's support is clear, and you'd think the whole town was taking to the field on Sunday. Captain coach of the Tigers, Brian Wilson, is confident his team, previously tagged as the underdogs, can come up with the trophy against the dual defending premiers.
Yeah, we're fairly confident. Yeah, we know we can beat them. We beat them in the last competition game, and we think we can do it again Sunday.
After finishing 4th on the table, the Tigers have made it the hard way to the grand final, beating Foster and Warhope in the lead-up games. Sunday's grand final begins at 3 p.m. at Taree.
Based on its track record, Eglo is up to the job. It built major hull sections for the guided missile frigate Newcastle, launched in Melbourne earlier this year. It's been a lean patch in the meantime for the yard on Kooragang Island that saw the hull sections take shape. Chief Executive of Amacon, Dr John White, said today his company is exercising a moral obligation in offering 2 sections of 2 new ships to Eglo. The federal government had promised Newcastle $70 million worth of work on the $3 billion contract. So far, little has come this way. The hull sections would take several years to build and could bring another 100 jobs to the local shipbuilding industry. But there are strings attached. A new industrial relations package is to be worked out, and an Amacon management team would be shipped in to keep a clamp on costs.
You couldn't move. The streets of Cessnock were a sea of faces. In some areas they stood 10 deep. Amassed behind the musicians and mono merchants, 22 nations, Austria leading the way. Outside the council chambers, a pseudo-solemn ceremony, Mayor Marie Callaghan presenting the battalion of bike riders with the key to the city. The Hungarians showed they didn't leave their sense of humour at home. As skies darkened over the showground, it seemed they would have the last laugh. One by one they were introduced. South Africa, back into the sporting wilderness tomorrow. New Zealand, tongues planted firmly in cheeks. From the lone Frenchman to the massive American team, as one commentator jokingly put it, 37 riders, 400 officials. But the warmest reception was reserved for team number 22. All bikes behind bars today, impounded until tomorrow's start at 7:30 a.m. Anthony Griffiths, NBN News.
Commercial charter pilot Phil Unicum was back at Luscantire Airport in the Hunter Valley today, preparing another Tiger Moth for his return to England next year to defend the title he so unexpectedly claimed at the Aerobatics Championships last week. Phil is highly regarded locally for his skills in the vintage Tiger Moth biplane, but no one was expecting him to win at the International Challenge near London, least of all himself.
Well, I got to third place and I still hadn't heard my name. I thought, well, must be a mistake. I mustn't be. They must have forgotten about it. Then they read out the second place getter and I thought, well, they've forgotten me. And then they said, the winner, and nearly put me on the ground. I couldn't even say thank you. I was so thrilled,
The Leonard Jeffreys Trophy is the Masters tournament for Tiger Moth enthusiasts. Only those who previously won the equally prestigious David Jackson Trophy are eligible to enter. Phil made history by winning both at the same competition. Now the British want their trophies back, but Phil says he's keen to keep them here.
Next time I'd hope I'd at least have had a bit of practice before I had a go at it. That makes a lot of difference too, I think. But who knows?
The Tari Lions Club held a special race meeting at the Wingham track, with the gate takings and the money from the food stalls going to the pool fund. Horse racing seems to be popular with the locals, with this crowd almost twice the size compared with regular meetings. The theme was colonial, with many a lad and lady spotted in the crowd. The effort raised $5,500 towards the hospital's goal of $210,000. As far as planning goes, the pool committee has decided on an Arjo type, measuring 4 by 3 metres. With only $5,000 from the target, work on the pool should commence in the near future.
Six field guns were trucked into the 113 field battery depot at Adamstown last night. Despite the darkness, the soldiers in the battery received the guns with full military honours. They replaced the 105mm howitzers, the standard field gun for the Army, for more than a decade. The 118s have a greater firing range, are easier to sight and are far more manoeuvrable. But the troops will have to wait until ammunition arrives for live firing practice at Singleton Artillery Range next month.
Yesterday it was John Hewson, today Ian McLaughlin. 17 shadow ministers are expected to tour northern New South Wales in the next 4 months. The coalition is confident the Fight Back program can woo some votes, but maybe not from big unions. Touring Ganinans, the Shadow Minister for Industry, said unions could be broken down to represent individual companies.
There'll be more unionists, but they'll be the Ganinan Workers Union or the Ford Motor Company Union or the GMH Union or the BHP, whatever it is.
It's all part of Fight Back's enterprise bargaining. Unions like the Federated Ironworkers say it's an attack on their movement, leaving workers as easy prey for bosses' demands. Ian McLaughlin says if a worker performs, his or her job should be safe. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Over the last 2 days, member for Tamworth Tony Windsor has gained local support for a plan to reintroduce capital punishment for serious crimes. Today he's also gained the backing of a number of Conservative politicians, including National MP Peter Cochrane, the member for Monaro. The savage death of schoolgirl Ebony Simpson has spurred Mr Windsor into action. She was abducted last week, tied up with wire, raped and drowned in a dam near Bargo in Sydney's southwest.
I believe that the criminal law legislation, the way it's written at the moment, doesn't allow for the severest of penalties, that being the death penalty, in cases where there's absolutely no doubt that the crime was committed, and particularly the cases like the Ebony Simpson case, where it was a particularly atrocious event and it occurred to an innocent victim.
Letters and phone calls of support have poured into Mr Windsor's Tamworth office. He now intends to canvass all 99 lower house MPs for their views, and then maybe introduce a private member's bill in an attempt to change the law.
And all I'm asking is that we consider it, we look at it, and if the community feels strongly enough about it, we actually do something about it.
In the 14-year-old's short career, he has already won 8 national motocross titles on his 60 and 80ccs and is now making a name for himself overseas. Craig has just come back from Oklahoma and Tennessee, where he's mixed with some of the world's top riders. He now has the trophy to prove he is up with the best of them. He scored a first place in an international class event on his 125cc against competitors from a number of countries, including Canada, Mexico and England.
They're always pressuring each other. They're very good riders and their tracks are longer and they're always on the gas.
To win his event, he came first in 3 20-minute races. Craig says he had one race in particular he's not going to forget in a hurry.
I was about half a lap and then I got a flat tyre and the blokes behind me started catching me real fast. And I just started finding a few outside lines and that's what got me there.
With the motocross season now close to finishing for the year, Craig is now off to the gym to become bigger and stronger so he can conquer the larger bikes.
Oxley Primary School is located on the Manila Road on the outskirts of Tamworth. It's claimed motorists travelling from Manila to Tamworth can be clocked at speeds of up to 100 kilometres an hour on the approach to the crossing. Standing on the crossing each morning and afternoon, Elizabeth Mann says many drivers do not make an effort to slow down.
They just don't realise that while I'm on the crossing, the children think they're safe, and if the cars don't stop or slow down, they're not safe.
By law, drivers are compelled to stop when there are pedestrians on the crossing and the red flags are flying.
Well, you get the odd occasional one, but other than that, the others just drive straight through.
Signs restricting vehicle speeds to 40 kilometres per hour will be put up in the next few weeks. It's hoped this should stop the problem.
I'm hoping it will. I'm hoping it will slow the traffic down enough that they realise that the speed limit has been changed.
Elizabeth fears there may be a tragedy as she has already been clipped by a truck that failed to stop.
The other day I got clipped by a truck while I was getting off the crossing, and I don't think the truck realised because it just kept going, but it had no intentions of slowing down, it just kept going.
A twin-engine plane carrying relief supplies crashed after taking off from a small airport in the stricken region. 2 people were killed and a third was injured when it hit the roof of one house and crashed into a second, the Federal Aviation Administration reported. The supplies were destined for the hard-hit Homestead area. More than 1 million Dade County residents are without power and an estimated 250,000 people are homeless, while some 3,000 National Guard troops patrolled the hardest-hit communities to keep order. The government estimates it will cost $20 to $30 billion to clean up and rebuild in Florida and care for residents displaced by the storm, which went on to strike a second blow in Louisiana's Cajun country. Louisiana wasn't as hard hit as Florida, and state officials there expressed relief that the storm's damage was limited. But that sentiment was lost on people in marshy coastal areas who returned to homes that had been badly damaged or destroyed.
All the Farrer students and a good number of Tamworth residents cheered the local 13 onto the field, but from the kick-off it was obvious the Yanco team from the Riverina was going to be hard to beat. Farrer was strong in defence, but proved to be no match for the Riverina boys. Yanco's Matthew Capel brought up the first 4 points. Farrer hit back soon after with this try from Andrew Barwick, but unfortunately it was not a sign of things to come. At half-time, Farrer was trailing 20 points to 12. Coach Bill Peterson gave them a stern talking to for a better second half, but Yanco went on a try-scoring spree. Former league international Noel Cleal was not impressed, and the University Shield slipped further from Farrer's grasp.